Hey yo people, if you are starting on a new server or if you are a beginner, usually you need to be careful with the resources you spend. So in this video I will give you 9 of my personal tips that I use when I start on a new server. Tip number 1, when to start. At the time that I'm making this video, the servers usually open every Wednesday at around 4 or 5 p.m. London time. The game itself goes according to the Hong Kong time zone, so if you want to take that in consideration, it's 23 in-game time according to Hong Kong. Not just that, but I like to call that the day 0, because technically the Pokeland day resets at 5 a.m. So what is important is that you will have a bunch of daily missions if you play on the first 5 or 6 hours of the server as soon as the server opens. Tip number 2 is about the skill points on that very first day 0. Now, especially if you are VIP 0, getting skill points is something that is very hard to get. Your skill points are increased only 1 every time minutes if you are VIP 0, and also every time you level up, but it gets to a point where you don't level up anymore and you need to decide where you want to put your skill points. I always advise you to not spend all of your skill points every time that you have them, because then, for example, everybody used Charmander on the first dungeon, we go to the second dungeon and people are still using Charmeleon, but some people are using Ivysaur or Bulbasaur as well. And people start, for example, switching the Charmeleon to other things like Psyduck, like Ivysaur, for example, on the third dungeon, which is a water type. And on this first day, your biggest source of damage is obviously the skill points. They will matter a lot, so don't spend them all, because if you want to switch Pokemon, you want to have those skill points ready so that you can continue clearing the dungeons like non-stop. And speaking of dungeons, tip number 3, energy or VIT. Now, VIT is extremely important to manage correctly in the early game, especially because we have daily missions. You want to use all of your VIT specifically to do daily missions, and after that you also want to use all of the VIT possible to also complete the dungeons. This is because all the missions that you see over here on the side, they provide you with extra EXP. That extra EXP counts towards your trainer level, and the trainer level is something that you want to level up as fast as possible. There's also another place where you can spend VIT, which would be the Safari mostly. And on the Safari, we usually go to the second page and we get ourselves some fusion cards to increase the fusion level of your Pokemon. But this would be my tip number 4. When possible, try to not use VIT over here, because we are going to unlock Monster Mist at level 18, and we are going to catch some Pokemon that we can fuse to our main Pokemon. Now, I just want to point out that of course it gets to a time where you are completely stuck and you have to spend VIT on Safari, yes, but when possible, use other Pokemon to do fusion, but always evolve them first if you can. I want to give a big shout out to these 2 Pokemon over here in specific, because they provide a big value when they are fused. First of all, we have an old school, which is Cubone. For Cubone, you only need 2 Sooth Bells to evolve it, but you need level 27, so it might be a big deal, and when evolving it, go for the evolution 2 and evolve into a Alolan Marowak. But if you are lucky to get a Meowth, because those are harder to catch, Meowth only needs like Intimacy 5, he only needs like level 15, you evolve it into a Alolan Persian and is ready to fuse. And as you can see, if you want to fuse a Caterpie, you only get plus 16, that's why I advise it to evolve it. For example, Magnemite, which could be a little bit harder to evolve, gives 40 fusion level, as we can see on the others. But if we are going and select the others that are in a team and I have to remove them, let me just go away. But if I want to fuse the others that I just evolved, look at this. 320 fusion EXP. This is huge in the early game, and it's a very powerful tip in terms of fusion and whatnot. And tip number 5, still talking about the topic of spending and being efficient, whatever, when you are doing maps, always try to have 4 stars if possible. It's not always possible to clear the map perfectly, but if you think that you can clear the map perfectly on the first try, always do it. When I say 4 stars, it's related to what you can see over here in game, where you are clearing the maps, and now it says number 4 up there, as you can see. And when you clear the map perfectly, you not only get rewarded with 10 extra diamonds, but technically it saves you the effort of having to come back in the future, wasting VIT for no reason, in order to perfect the map. Because if you do everything perfectly, you get an extra reward in the end. And that extra reward is usually diamonds, is other items that might be useful and usually are very useful for the early game. So always try to max out your maps if you can at the first try. Okay, so you have been grinding for a while already. Let's get into tip number 6, which is unlocked at level 20, which is the cross-server team. As soon as you can, and if you can, always do the cross-server team, because cross-server team unlocks a level 20, as I said. You want to do those chances before the reset, because they are daily chances. You have 1 battle chance, that means that you can create the room once, and you have 5 health chances, that means that you have to find over here people that are playing and join them. Technically before a reset, so on the day 0, this is very hard to find people over here because, oh well, I actually found it. But what I mean is that there's double rewards on a specific in-game time, and usually there's a lot of players during that time. And since day 0 it's not on this time, it's kinda hard to find other players that will carry you through cross-server team, but it's a matter of just trying and spend all of the chances that you can. Especially the 5 help chances provide you with a lot of gold that is extremely valuable in the early game. I don't know if I already lost count, but I believe this should be tip number 7, which is the home feature. Now the home feature unlocks at like level 28 if I'm not wrong, and there's like 2 very important things that you need to take into consideration when you unlock the home feature. First of all is that you can put over here your Pokemon getting level and intimacy over time, and this is extremely important. If you already have a second attacker, a second Pokemon that you are using a lot in your team, don't be scared to unlock an extra slot over here so that you can put your second strongest attacker. Those spots are very valuable, especially later in the game as well, and they are always worth the diamonds if you want to start investing early. And another thing that you need to do is always start planting berries as soon as you can. These berries early game, they might do much more than what you are expecting it to do, because they are dealing like true damage, 5000 true damage in the early game. This is massive. And then you have like other berries that can be helpful. For example, this one that recovers your HP might be helpful in multiple game modes. This one recovers 5% HP per round, so it's a total of 15% HP. Those are multiple berries that actually might help you win battles in multiple dungeons, so keep that in mind. Tip number 8, I know a lot of people want to get legendary Pokemon, and if you want to guarantee your first legendary Pokemon, you need at least 5000 diamonds. I have a video specifically talking about how to get legendary Pokemon, and if you are a real beginner, I highly advise you to go and watch that video. But basically the first 5000 diamonds that you spend, so it's 2 times this one and 1 time this one, okay, that one. The first 5000 diamonds that you spend, they will give you a guaranteed legendary, so make sure that you do it. It's not a free chance, it needs to be actually spending diamonds, okay? I'm pointing at the free chance, but what I mean is 2 times this, 1 times that, and it will give you a guaranteed legendary Pokemon. And last but not least, about diamonds, tip number 9, always save 500 diamonds in your pocket, because those 500 diamonds might be useful for the Happy Wheel, which you have a free spin and you get diamonds in return, which all the extra diamonds in the early game, they matter a lot. That's about it for me. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys on the next video.